What's going on, everybody? Jolt here from TheTokenMinorities, and I am back with the Week 10 Team Builder of the GBA Season 8, where your Kansas City Chiefs are preparing to take on gym leader Gio and his San Francisco GiEnteis in what is actually yet another chance for the KC Chiefs to guaranteed punch our ticket into the playoffs. By winning this game, we do clinch a playoff spot. We don't quite clinch the divisional championship yet, but we have a chance to do that probably next week against Lars, especially if we win this game here. So pretty big game here for sure. Gio lost his most recent game, I believe, to Crimson. If you haven't seen that already, I'm sorry for the spoilers, but Gio is coming off of a loss, so he's definitely going to be looking to bounce back this week. But as for us, we've dropped 2 straight after starting the season 7-0, so we are certainly looking to bounce back this week. And picking up that win here would just be all the more sweet, being able to bounce back onto the winning track as well as clinching the playoff spot. Basically makes this game a pretty darn big deal, and as a result I have put together what I believe is the best possible team for this matchup, just to make sure we have the best chance possible to be able to come out on top here. But let's take a look at Gio's team here, his draft, as he has access to Mew, Mega Scizor, Toxapex, Dugtrio, Ditto, Rabombi, Shaman, Z Haxorus, Blacephalon, Rotom Fan, and Z Archeops. So he has a pretty threatening team. Just in general, I think my team has a lot of good defensive responses to a lot of his mons, but specifically looking at that Mew is such an enormous threat to Fat Balance, just in general, because it's able to run typically like pretty bulky EV spreads just naturally, like slap on 252 EVs and HP, and is going to be able to naturally take hits from the majority of my team and pack coverage for the majority of my team as well, with Mew having access to like every single TM in the game. That gives it natural coverage for stuff like my Hydreigon through Dazzling Gleam, stuff from my Celesteela has T-Bolt, Flamethrower, Fire Blast, Thunder. I guess if he wants to do that, he can obviously run Psychic for my Venusaur. He even has access to Vacuum Wave, which I'm not exactly sure the means by which Mew gets that. It's not a TM, but even so, Vacuum Wave is pretty good against the likes of both of my Dark types and the Durant on my team. So Mew is really looking like the overall biggest threat to my team from his roster. So that'll certainly be the mon that I'm trying to build around the most for this team, just to make sure it's not able to get out of hand, or at least I really minimize its opportunities to be annoying against my team. As even like defensive Mew is really annoying because it's able to switch in well against my non-boosted threats, like against a non-boosted Celesteela, against Mega Venusaur in general. Mew is able to switch in pretty freely against those mons, as well as stuff like non-specs Gardevoir. It could switch in relatively well against that if it wanted to, if it was designed to do that. Like, Mew is just so annoying defensively and offensively. Like I said, it has coverage for everything if it chooses to bring it. He only really needs 4 coverage moves to be able to beat my entire team, those being Dazzling Gleam, Fire Blast, or Flamethrower, and then Psychic, and then maybe Vacuum Wave if he wants to be able to hit the Durant and Alolan Persian. Like, that could easily be a set he brings, like an Expert Belt set. He could also bring like Roost 3 attacks. He could bring Nasty Plot 3 attacks, Rock Polish 3 attacks. Those are all possibilities that he could bring here in this matchup, making Mew just an enormous threat offensively and defensively. But I've talked enough about Mew for now. I'll show you what I'm going to do to work around that here in just a little bit. Mega Scizor is also a little bit of a threat to me, mainly because I feel like Arcanite's matchup is pretty poor. When he has both Dugtrio and Toxapex on his draft, it's really tough to justify bringing Arcanine in this matchup, which makes Mega Scizor definitely more of a threat. That said, the Celesteela Mega Venusaur core is still able to deal with it pretty well overall, so I should still be okay. And also a lot of my team gets access to fire coverage, or at least hidden power fire, so I should be able to keep the Mega Scizor in check, but it's still a pretty decent threat against my team. Nothing like Mew though. Mew is a ridiculous threat. Toxapex is also kind of annoying. It's not really good against me necessarily, but it just switches in like a Toxapex does and doesn't really care against a lot of my team. But basically what that means, because I feel like Toxapex is a pretty likely bring for him, and also because he has a Ditto on his roster, I think Substitute is really good here in this matchup. I've also seen several people bring Substitute against Gio throughout the season, and for good reason, for 2 reasons. One being that, yeah, it's really easy to sub down on Toxapex and abuse those turns where Toxapex tries to come in and sponge a hit against my mons. But 2, Gio is a very aggressive player by nature from what I've seen, especially against the higher level competition in the league. He has had a tendency of playing more aggressively against them, especially against MV earlier in the season. I noticed that there. So a good way to deal with players who are aggressive is by bringing Substitute on mons that he would try to be maybe aggressive against. So for example, having Substitute on stuff like Celesteela could be really good if he tries to go hard into Blacephalon as an offensive check, maybe expecting like a Leech Seed or like a Heavy Slam or something that Blacephalon might be able to take. I could easily see him trying to make that play, which makes Sub on Celesteela, for example, a very good option here in this matchup. Another example being the Hydreigon. If he expects me to go for something like a Roost or a Flamethrower, he could easily go hard into his Mew, which very likely could be packing the Dazzling Gleam, and he'd be able to immediately outspeed and threaten me, whereas I could set up a Sub with Hydreigon and basically prevent that from being the case unless he has something like U-Turn on the Mew, which I highly doubt considering how much the Mew is pressed for move slots in this game. So Sub is really, really good against Geo's team and against Geo as a player, and as you'll see here whenever we jump into the build, that is the type of strategy that I'm going to take on here for this matchup. But in terms of some of the holes in his team, I'm going to try to exploit as well, just beyond having Substitute to help me blow through his team. He has no Ghost Resist, so bringing something like Rotom is very tempting in this matchup. It's not actually something I end up doing, and the reason is because I really felt like I had other Pokemon that could do that breaking job better, or in the case of maybe like a Choice Scarf Rotom, I had other mons that I thought could do the job of being a Choice Scarfer better than Rotom in this matchup. So yeah, I really wanted to bring the Rotom, but it just wasn't the best mon for the job, despite the fact that he didn't have a resistance. If Rotom was stronger, then yeah, I definitely would have brought Rotom in this matchup, but yeah, it's just like base 91 special attack or something like that, which really isn't very much in the grand scheme of things, despite the fact that he doesn't have resistances. He could have a lot of natural like resists just due to that being kind of weak in general. So so there's that, but he also really only has one dark resist that doesn't really count, and that's a Rabombi. So Dark Spam is also very good against him, and as we get into the team, I'll show you what I'm going to do here, but I'm actually going to bring both of my dark types just to pressure him a lot, because he really doesn't have those switch-ins. Like I said, all he has is Rabombi. Rabombi is hard-walled by Celesteela, and quite honestly just doesn't deal well with most of my team. It's very hard for it to get setup opportunities, and it can never really beat me with the Quiver Dance set because of Celesteela walling any sets. It doesn't even get Sleep Powder, so it's not able to abuse me in that regard either. So I really think that he's not going to bring a Dark Resist in this matchup, which makes that Dark Spam a really viable option here for sure. So the only other thing I wanted to point out before we jump into the team, I think he really struggles to break through Celesteela as well. Like I said, he has Blacephalon that can deal with it offensively, but if I could just get a sub up with Celesteela as he goes into Blacephalon, or just have a sub up before he can go into Blacephalon, then like he really does not check it very well at all. He could check it with like a Rotom Fan. That's actually his best possible response to Celesteela, like a defensive Rotom Fan on his team in my opinion, and that's, I mean, he could bring that. That's definitely a viable bring here in this matchup, but I do have ways to deal with it on the team. But I've rambled on enough without showing you the actual team, so let me hop over to that real quick. So we're going to kick this off with the Celesteela, and like I said, he doesn't switch into it very well. He doesn't deal with it offensively very well either. He has very limited ways to deal with it, and that's why I'm packing this pretty dangerous offensive set with Substitute and Flame Charge. Now, if he brings the Mega Scizor, that is a free Flame Charge, and at +1 from this Flame Charge, I guaranteed outspeed the, I believe, let me think. I think it's at +2. Yeah, at +2, I guaranteed outspeed his base 100. So he has the Shaman, he has the Mew as the two base 100s, I believe. I'll be able to guaranteed outspeed those at +2 from Flame Charge, and there's a lot of stuff I can get to +2 on, quite honestly. Stuff like the Shaman, even on the Mew potentially. His Mew is not going to be able to knock me out in one hit, and I Flame Charge. As he goes into Mew, I can Flame Charge again potentially if he's confirmed to not have Will-O-Wisp. And yeah, then I could just go to town with Heavy Slams with 132 investment in my attack. Heavy Slam is doing a lot of damage to anything on his team. He does not switch in well to that at all. Now, the idea behind sub on this specifically is because there's a very free sub against the Toxapex, which is otherwise a pretty good switch into this. It's also pretty much a free sub against non-Leech Seed Shaman as well. And in either case, with the sub up, like I said, it's just really good against him overall. Combination Heavy Slam Earthquake hits his entire team bar Mega Scizor and bar Rotom. So I'm packing on Flame Charge because Mega Scizor I find is a much bigger threat than the Rotom could ever be, so I think that's just better overall. Rotom I really don't think is going to be able to do too much against my team if he brings it. I feel like naturally, yeah, I'm a little weak to its Dual Stab But first of all, one of its stabs are Air Slash, which isn't the strongest move in the world, so Mega Venusaur can actually take the hit if it needs to, and 2 Hydreigon's going to be able to wall it pretty well as well. So the only other thing I wanted to mention on this, I guess the special defense investment allows me to not have a sub broken by uninvested Shaman, just in case he runs like HP Fire, Fat Shaman to like a specially defensive Shaman, maybe to help him deal with my my Hydreigon, maybe as his pseudo dark resist. I could see that happening, so I wanted to have that special defense investment for that specifically, and speed again to allow me to outspeed those base 100s at +2, as well as Mega Scizor at +1. Now I have the Hydreigon coming up next. This is going to be probably my best way to deal with the Rotom if he decides to bring that, to deal with my Celesteela. So it's certainly good for that, but this is also kind of a cancer set. You can see this Dark Pulse, Sub, T-Wave, and Roost. This is my guaranteed response to the Blacephalon. It might not be able to one-shot the Blacephalon, especially if he is a Calm Mind variant or even Colba Berry. That's definitely a possibility, and if that's the case, I do have other ways to check it, but this is just really, really annoying against this team. Like I said, he doesn't have Dark Resists, unless you count Ribombee, but Ribombee can catch this T-Wave first of all, which makes it really easy to deal with the rest of my team, and if he doesn't bring Ribombee, then this thing is just so annoying. I can T-Wave him if he goes into the Toxapex, and I have a 45% chance to immobilize him every single turn through the combination of Thunder Wave Paralysis chances as well as the Dark Pulse Flinch chance, so that's a good option as well. And even then I have other things I can switch into the Toxapex, so it's not like I have to lean on this to be able to beat it, but quite honestly a paralysis on Toxapex is really, really helpful to try to, or for the process of wearing it down over time. That thing's a really annoying Pokemon, obviously, and being able to immobilize it every few turns is certainly nice. But T-Wave is also very nice for a variety of other things on his team, especially that Mew, and I actually have another Thunder Wave user coming up here, I think next, and I'll show you that in just a second, but if I can get a paralysis off on the Mew, this thing really, really goes to town, as well as his responses to this are so limited on his team. These first two mons, Celesteela, Hydreigon, both can each individually single-handedly beat his entire team, I think. Depending on what he brings, sure, he's going to have some checks to them, but he's not going to be able to switch into these well at all, which makes these two really quite the wombo combo here against him in this matchup. So that is the Hydreigon. The speed investment allows me to outpace an Adamant Haxorus. I don't think he needs to run Jolly unless he actually fears a Jolly Arcanine and doesn't fear E-Speed, or maybe he actually fears a timid Rotom. Those would be the only reasons why he would run a Jolly Haxorus, but with him not having a Ghost Resist, I guess I can potentially see it. I still felt like only investing enough for an Adamant Haxorus was better overall in this case, especially because I can just Thunder Wave it as well if I need to, and then I can just do a ton of damage with Dark Pulse. He's not able to set up against me basically because of Thunder Wave and Dark Pulse guaranteed to KOing him unless he is like a really bulky, which I don't really see coming. It's possible if he's like a Swords Dance variant, but I don't really see that happening. But next up is the Gardevoir. This is another Thunder Wave user. Now this is actually my dedicated response to Mew, because I don't really think that my Hydreigon or my Celesteela are going to be switch-ins to Mew. Okay, Mew can easily run Fire Blast, it can easily run Will-O-Wisp, it can easily run Dazzling Gleam. All three of those moves really, really annoying for Celesteela and for Hydreigon. So this is going to be a little bit more of a safer switch into the Mew, because what I can do to the Mew is I can either HP Fire, predicting him to go into the Mega Scizor, which is a play I think he will make. I think immediately, if I were to switch this into Mew, he is going to fear me having Trick on this, or he's going to fear me going for like a Toxic, like the same strategy I went for against Pokemon last week against his bulky Psychic and Necrozma. I could see him trying to go hard into his Mega Scizor, so if that is a situation that I feel might come, I am clicking HP Fire. I'm going to be aggressive, because if I can get rid of the Mega Scizor, that is really, really good for the rest of the game. But what I can also potentially do is go for a Thunder Wave, because if I have a Thunder Wave on the Mew, like I said, my Hydreigon is able to deal with it much more easily. Even my Celesteela has enough investment to be able to outspeed a paralyzed max speed Mew, which is definitely really good since Heavy Slam is doing so much damage. Plus, if I get a paralysis off on the Mega Scizor, I don't think I said this yet, if I get a paralysis off on the Mega Scizor, I'm going to be able to more easily deal with it with my Celesteela, which will guarantee outspeed, deal with them more easily with my Mega Venusaur that'll show here in just a second. And also, there's always the chance the Yellow Magic could shine and I could just HP Fire with my Gardevoir on a full paralysis turn, which probably won't happen. I'm usually not one to risk something like that, but you never know. That could potentially come up. Yellow Magic is a pretty strong strategy here in this week, and just in general. I think Thunder Wave is one of the most annoying and one of the best moves in the game, despite the fact that I got the accuracy nerf. I really wish they'd get rid of full paralysis, I'm not gonna lie, but if it's going to be an option, I'm going to use it here in this matchup, especially because Toxapex is an annoying Pokemon. Mew is a really annoying Pokemon for my team. We're going to bring the best possible strategy to deal with them, and I do think Thunder Wave is the way to go. Now, Psychic is, of course, for the Toxapex and Moonblast with a Pixie Plate to do as much damage as possible to the Mew and to the Shaman, which both would be the more bulky pivots into this Pokemon if he's not willing to risk his Mega Scizor. And now the HP and defense investments are here to allow me to survive an Adamant Life Orb Dugtrio's Earthquake, which I feel like I should be able to get in positions where I will, and that's after Stealth Rock as well. I feel like I should be able to be in positions where Gardevoir has enough health to be able to make use of that type of spread against a potential Dugtrio trapping set, especially because I think that if I'm going to be switching this into the Mew, I'm going to have Leech Seed support on it as well from this Mega Venusaur. So this set is pretty obviously offensive. I have a little bit of speed investment, a little more than usual, because I want to try to catch his Mega Scizor creeping my typical 20 EVs in speed investments. So hopefully that's what ends up happening. And this would be able to outspeed that then and bop it with an HP Fire. Sludge Bomb is also just really good and spammable against his entire team. He has a few resists, but none of them really appreciate switching into a Sludge Bomb except the Mega Scizor, which does not appreciate the HP Fire. And like I said already, if I get the Leech Seed off on the incoming Mew, it makes my Gardevoir switch in much easier, and it basically eases prediction around the Mew as well, because the Mew is going to be more likely to try to switch out against the Gardevoir if it has a Leech Seed on it, which allows me to get off a potentially really beneficial HP Fire on the incoming Scizor, or potentially a Thunder Wave on the incoming Mega Scizor or the incoming Shaman, which allows the rest of my team to deal with that better as well. So just overall, really good Mega Venusaur set this week. Tough for him to switch into with the offensive investment. Really didn't feel like I needed the defensive investment at all in this matchup. I wanted to keep that pressure on him, be aggressive in this game, and yeah, so that's what we ended up going with here. Just a good set. And next up, not last yet, is the Alolan Persian coming back this week. Adam is going to try to actually do something. I brought it against Crimson a few weeks back. Really didn't do its job like I wanted it to. I think I used it pretty poorly last time around, so we're giving it another chance here with a Choice Scarf set and Fur Coat, because I'm expecting the Haxorus to be most likely unnerved. I don't think he's going to bring Mold Breaker for this, so this is good to be an emergency switch into Haxorus if I need it to be. It's also good to be able to outspeed and knock out a Blacephalon, even Choice Scarfed, with really either of my moves in Knockoff or Foul Play. This is also a good way to check the Mega Scizor again if potentially my Fattermons are whittled a little bit, and it's confirmed that the Mega Scizor is going to be able to outspeed my team. Fur Coat allows me to straight up chew +2 Bullet Punch, and I think I can even take a +4 Bullet Punch from Max Attack Scizor, which is pretty crazy. This thing's like really fat with Fur Coat, and Foul Play would do a ton back to that as well. So this is just a very good safety Pokemon against him this week, and I can always switch through the Mew if I need to. I can switch through the Toxapex if that's becoming a big issue, and Knockoff is just really good to just casually remove items every time I'm able to check the Blacephalon, as I could see him trying to switch into things like Toxapex. Getting rid of the item there is nice. He could switch into the Shaman. Getting rid of items there is nice as well. Those were the two primary candidates, I believe, and like I said, he doesn't really have Dark Resist, so just being able to spam Foul Play with this Pokemon is pretty good this week. Now I'm running U-Turn instead of Parting Shot, just because I feel like there could be opportunities where I want to get a knockout and not take any damage on Persian outside of maybe Stealth Rock in the process. So that's why I went with U-Turn. I wanted to get that little bit of damage off from the U-Turn and save Persian's health for later, instead of, or even like just getting out of there, honestly, so that he's not able to bring in some sort of annoying threat like a Mew that's not going to be knocked out by a Foul Play, or just like some kind of Pokemon that doesn't really care about Foul Play, basically, like a Shaman even. That's another example. If he brings like an offensive Shaman, that would also be able to switch in pretty easily on this if I just lock myself into Foul Play, and he can do whatever he wants. Maybe he can get up a free sub or something, and that would be pretty annoying as well. So U-Turn's just really nice for that. Also nice to just get a little bit of chip damage on a Pokemon if I need to, if it's not quite in range of foul play. That's just something to think about there as well. So then finally we have the, I guess, investment on this. I'm just outspeeding Blacephalon. I believe, yeah, I think outspeeding outspeeding Archeops just in case he is scarfed Archeops. That's certainly a set he could bring. I think Archeops is pretty decent against my team, so I wanted to have a way to make sure I could outspeed that. Then now I have the dedicated Rocker in this matchup because I feel like I need Stealth Rocks on the field to be able to win this game. It helps me put the Haxorus into range of foul play from my Persian at +1. It helps put the Mega Scizor into range of HP Fire from my regular Gardevoir, which is also pretty important. Just in general, it's nice to be able to chip down stuff like the Rotom, chip down stuff like the Blacephalon, chip down, even just get that little bit of chip damage on the Toxapex, guarantees certain 2-hit KOs from my team. There's one other big one I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Oh, there's something else that was weak to rocks. Let me pull up his team again real quick. He had an Archeops. That was the other big one. Yeah, getting the chip damage off on Archeops is also nice because of Defeatist. Means he's only going to be able to switch in twice, or maybe only once I get a little bit of chip damage off on it with other mons. So, yeah, so rocks are important. Pursuit is also nice on this Pokemon because that gives me an extra way to make sure that Blacephalon is not going to do anything against me. Blacephalon is very well dealt with, I think, on this team right now. If he brings Blacephalon, I can almost guarantee you it's going to be useless. It might get one kill at the absolute most, and that's only if he has some sort of lure for Hydreigon, because that's going to be my initial switch into Blacephalon, but even so, I have a lot of ways to check it. There's no way I'm going to lose this game to Blacephalon, I can guarantee that. Now I'm running a Lonely Nature. I just wanted to max out my attack because I believe I'm just trying to... I believe I am just creeping a... I think I'm creeping... This might be Archeops again. Yeah, I'm creeping Archeops again. I could have crept like Dugtrio or a Bombi, but I really don't think Bombi is coming, and I don't fear Dugtrio. Dugtrio, I feel like it has a really bad matchup. I might be wrong, but like, I just don't know what it tries to trap. It might try to trap Gardevoir. It's the only thing on my team that it could even bother trying to trap unless I leave Mega Venus super weakened. And I have investment to prevent that as well. So I really just don't fear Dugtrio, quite honestly. So I didn't really feel the need to outspeed that. I'm just going to outspeed the Archeops because I do foresee the Archeops coming as his dedicated lead in this matchup. I think Archeops is his best rocker against me. It might be a Z Archeops, I'm not really sure, but if it is a lead Archeops with like a sash, I can just stay in and rock slide. I'm going to lead with this. I'm going to stay in and rock slide immediately on it. And first of all, 30% chance for a flinch, which is nice. Second of all, basically it just ensures that he's going to be in Defeatist range and isn't going to be able to break through my Mega Venusaur later on, or break through stuff like my Hydreigon that could be able to hit Hydreigon pretty hard, or even like Celesteela if he's a Z move that could do a lot of damage as well. So being able to get that damage off is really nice. It also guarantees that I get up Stealth Rocks in this game. I really wanted to bring Seismitoads, and Seismitoads are naturally a pretty good response to the Toxapex, especially if I brought something like Refresh or like Sub on Seismitoad as well. Both options I was thinking about, but ultimately went with this because it was a more guaranteed way to make sure I get up the Stealth Rocks. Plus it has extra utility as a way to trap the Blacephalon, or even trap the Mew, honestly. If I'm able to weaken down the Mew with Mega Venusaur, or weaken down the Mew with my Persian, or with Hydreigon, with Gardevoir, this could be a nice way to Pursuit Trap and get rid of the biggest threat to my team as well. Flamethrower just to make sure the Mega Scizor is not able to set up in my face. Plus, there's no real point in running something like Earthquake because it's going to do 0 to Toxapex anyways, let's be honest. So I didn't really need to bother with Earthquake, and might as well just prevent the Mega Scizor from doing anything. So that is the team for this week. Like I said before, I do feel good about this team. I feel like this was the best possible team I could have brought for this matchup, and that's a good thing because we need to win this game. This game is a must-win because it guarantees playoffs for us if we win this game, and I do think this is the team that's going to be able to do it. I have no idea what Gio's going to bring. There's so many ways that he could approach this matchup. He could go like really fat. He could go really offensive, honestly. He has the tools to go really offensive against me if he wants to, but it'll be really interesting to see what he decides to bring, as I think he could go off the wall here in this matchup for sure. He could also, he could also bring a bunch of standard stuff. He could easily bring like the Zazo Special Mew, like the Roost Super Fang Taunt. He could easily bring that, and like maybe some sort of coverage move like Knockoff or something to hit the potential Rotom. or even Toxic. He could bring that kind of Mew, or he could bring like Nasty Plot. He could bring Sword. There's so many Mew sets he could bring, and that's what makes Mew so terrifying in this matchup, really. But I really do feel like I have the tools to beat it. I have several ways to offensively check it. I have 2 ways to paralyze it, which is really important. Celesteela can always take any 1 hit if it needs to. Mega Venusaur does not let it come in for free at all. Even if it's specially defensive Mew, it is not like Sludge Bomb. It is not like Leech Seed, and especially even if I get like the Sludge Bomb Poison, that'd be so good against the Mew, especially in conjunction with the Leech Seed, because then my Gardevoir does just beat it 1v1, which is pretty crazy there for sure. But yeah, Mew's the biggest threat. Otherwise, I think I have very well built for every other member of his team. I think Haxorus is kind of a threat too, potentially, depending on his set. I think like a Z-move Haxorus is probably the biggest threat against my team outside of the Mew, but I feel like I have the tools to prevent it from being able to get set up. Basically, I just don't want to let it have more than +1 from its Swords Dance, and then I'll be okay, as Persian will always be able to guaranteed knock it out with a Foul Play, because I am Choice Scarfed, able to outspeed, and I can always chew any 1 hit with my Fur Coat as well if I have to hard switch Persian into an attack to make sure it does not get too many boosts. So that is the team for this week, and yeah, so we're going to be bringing the battle to you tomorrow. I don't know what time yet, haven't talked to him about that, but you know, early afternoon, you know the drill. Just expect it around the time that it typically would come out. But yeah, this is a big one, so let's see if we can pull it off and in the losing skid, but get back on a winning streak and see if we can finish out the season strong. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you all tomorrow. Peace.